a copy of the recording, you can always let us know and we can send you a link to the recording. We can't actually include it. It's too large of a file to include in an email, but we can send you a link so that you can access that recording. So we have the recording going, and I'm going to give everybody just a couple more minutes to join because I know we have some others that may be interested that had said that they were going to be joining. And then I will go through our housekeeping announcements. But today's episode is a Seeing AI refresh. And just so that everyone is aware, one of the things that I do before we actually start the presentation is that I mute everyone so that you don't have to worry about whether or not you have any background noise that might be disturbing anyone else. And then towards the end, when we're ready to open it up for Q&As, I will make sure that I unmute for people that want to ask any questions.
This is Judy, and I'm looking forward to this because I'm not finding Seeing AI as handy as I used to, so I'm hoping to figure out what I'm doing wrong.
Fair enough. Fair enough. We like to provide people with good information that they can use in their daily lives to help enrich their day-to-day activities as it relates to working with these things called these iPhones or iPads. So want to make sure that people can use these tools. Just a couple more minutes. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. Let me go ahead and get started with some of our housekeeping activities. Just a refresher, I have started a recording, but we have a desire for everyone to be able to hear everything. So one of the things about the Zoom calls is that I have the ability to mute everyone. However, we want to make sure that all of you know how you can mute and unmute yourselves. If you are calling in from a cell phone or a telephone or a landline, any of the above telephones, so *6 is the command, and that can mute or unmute. If you're using a PC, the command is Alt-A. If you're using a Mac, the command is Command-Shift-A. And if you're on a smartphone or a tablet, the mic button that's in the lower left corner of your display allows you to toggle muting on and off. Now, at the point in time when we finish with the presentation, we're going to open it up for people to ask questions, which we encourage, so don't be bashful. But when you do, we want to make sure that you can let us know that you have a question. So when that occurs, please, on your telephone, you can use *9 to basically raise your hand. If you're on a PC, you can use the command Alt-Y. If you're on a Mac, the command is Option-Y. And again, if you're on a smartphone or a tablet, in the middle of the buttons across the bottom of the screen of your user interface with Zoom, you will find a reactions button. And that's basically in the bottom middle of the display. And the main number one reaction inside of all the reactions is the hand raising reaction. So want to make sure that people know those things so that you can we can all enjoy today's presentation and the interactions that we have. Let's see. So without any ado, it's about 5 after. I do want to go ahead and be respectful of everyone's time, so we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Eric Boklage, and this is the Apple Exchange from Second Sense here on June the 12th of 2025. And as we've told everybody in the announcement, this is basically a review or a refresh of the Seeing AI app. Seeing AI is an app that was developed by Microsoft, and it was developed for both the Apple and Android platforms. It's designed to be a multifaceted tool for those of us who are blind and low vision. It allows the user to take advantage of the camera functionality on their cell phone in order to visually interpret the world around them. It is fully accessible and it is widely used throughout the blind and low vision community. Last year, we discussed this app as a part of a series of seminars that we called Apps You Should Know. However, earlier this spring, Microsoft issued an update for the app that rearranged the user interface. Okay. And when they rearranged that user interface, it caused some confusion for a number of people. So today, we want to make sure that we review the app again within the framework of that new user interface. Now, if you've been using Seeing AI for a while, then today, the only new things that you may hear today are things about how that interface works, as in where did everything go? But if you haven't used Seeing AI before, then today will be an introduction to the tool at large, and we don't think you'll be disappointed. What sort of tools does Seeing AI offer? This is actually a trope that's been used by a lot of different people in that Seeing AI is kind of like a Swiss Army knife because it's a lot of different tools all wrapped into one app. And each of those tools takes advantage of the cell phone's camera. Now, here's just a quick list. One, it'll read text, notes, envelopes, signs, virtually anything that's in written form, whether it's typed or handwritten. It will scan and read documents, working as an OCR, optical character recognition tool. It will describe scenes around you, including people, places, things that are all described in pretty rich detail. It'll describe photos, whether those are photos that are sent to you via email or text, or those photos are already in your photo library. It can describe them to you. It can read product codes, and that includes the UPC barcodes or QR codes that you will often see on product packaging. It will scan your surroundings for people, such as telling you how many people are around you and whether or not, if you've taught the app to recognize certain people by name and from their photos, then it'll let you know if that person is around you. It can recognize and identify currency, including up to 15 different major international currencies. It can help you identify colors on garments, floors, walls, etc. But there's a big question mark, or not a question mark, let's call it an asterisk on that. That's very subject to variations in lighting, which those sorts of nuances are often the most difficult things for anyone to pick up. It will help you detect the amount of light that's around you. So if you happen to be someone who has limited or no light perception, you may not know that the lights are on or off in your respective home or room or whatever. And if you've got others that are interacting with you, you may want to know that so that you can have lights on for them. Okay. It can also help you find your things. If you train it to look for certain things or what those certain things look like, then you can use the camera to help scan around you to find those things. Now, that's in preview mode right now. So it's one of those things that they are trying to improve on a regular basis, but it is something that is available. And then there's one more that's in preview mode, and that one is basically the ability to explore an unfamiliar space. So it's taking advantage of both the AI and AR. So AI is artificial intelligence, and AR is augmented reality. And it takes both of those, depending upon the model of the phone or the iPad that you're using. If it has certain tools built in, then it can help explore those unfamiliar spaces using 3D spatial audio. Now, that's a lot. And all of that's packed into one app. Excuse me. And these tools will help you in your normal daily life. And it's all wrapped up into this one package. So it's one of the reasons why this app has gotten the reputation of being a bit of a Swiss Army knife because it's all in one place. Now, Microsoft continues to say that the app is a work in progress, and they are actively asking people who use the app to provide input so that they can continue to provide improvements. We'll get to more of that later. Where and how can I get the Seeing AI app? Well, the Seeing AI app is available in both the Apple App Store and the Android comparable stores like the Google Play Store. So if you haven't already downloaded it, we highly recommend that you do so. Now, it's published by Microsoft and is available on all these other platforms. It's not a native app, so it doesn't ship with a new phone. It's one of those apps that you have to go out to the relevant store in order to pick it up and bring it back, okay, and download it. Once you download it, then you can do some basic things with it to set it up. But we're not going to go into that level of detail today. We don't have time. But if anybody does have questions about how to get it set up for them in particular, then they can always set up an appointment to work with us to do that. When you first use or open the Seeing AI app, or when you first start using it after a major update, the app will display a series of pages that briefly describe the app's capabilities. So if you're new to the app, I suggest that you listen carefully to those descriptions. It won't take long, but they are very good descriptions, only a handful of pages, and you can just simply swipe left to right, move things to the left as you move through them. If you're a bit impatient and you want to skip through all of that, there is a skip button on the bottom of the phone display that gives you the option to dive right in. One of the other really cool things about this app is that there is a lot of inherent help function that is built in throughout the app. So it's a very robust help function. It will automatically be shown to you the first time that you use any one of the functions or features on the app. So not only do you get a general overview of how the app works when you first start using it, but each of the different channels or features, whenever you first start using one of those, you'll get the help screen that pops up to give you some assistance. Okay. Now, in addition to that, you can also access the help function by pressing the quick help button that stays in the upper right corner of the phone display while you're using the app. It's on every page. In addition to that, now that help function button that's up in the upper right-hand corner is going to be specific to whatever function it is that you're on. But in addition to that, there is a global help function that is readily accessible using the menu button. And the menu button is displayed in the upper left corner of the phone display. And that menu gets into a number of different things. We're going to talk about that near the end of today's presentation. But one of the key features of that menu is going to be the help function. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get help. And when you first start using the app, as well as right after an update, whenever they've made some changes, that help function is automatically displayed for you. You may think that it's an annoyance, but they wouldn't be putting it up there unless there was a change of some sort. So it's often worth your while to go ahead and listen to and read through all of those descriptions. So I do recommend that you do that whenever you can. And sometimes when it's apps like this, it's a good idea for you to go ahead and go through the process of when you're not in a hurry, to literally play around with it and go through it and listen to what all those different help function components are. Now, the user interface, with all those different tools, you've got a lot to choose from. And when we reviewed this app last year, all of those tools were displayed with a little icon button across the bottom of the screen for each one, which meant that you had to do a little bit of left to right scrolling in order to access all of them. I'm guessing that the developers at Microsoft decided that they needed to shrink that down to a more usable interface to make it easier for users to get to the parts that they wanted to use the most. As a result, the number of buttons that are across the bottom of the screen on the Seeing AI app has been reduced down to 3. Those three are read, describe, and more. And that's the way they are arrayed from left to right. Read, describe, and more. Now, each of those buttons represents a different subset of all of the key functions and features that I was talking about earlier in my list and that were available last year. Okay. And for descriptive purposes today, I'm going to call those three buttons channels because they are channels to get you to different functions within the overall app. Now, each of those channels can have a slightly different display on the screen. And because they've rearranged some of these things, then those buttons and the things that are displayed on each one of them can change. So I want to make sure that part of today we go along the line of what is going to be displayed on each page. Okay. Now, regardless of which tool that you're using, there are some key aspects of the screen that remain the same. There's two buttons at the top of the page. One on the left is the menu button that I mentioned earlier, and the one on the right is the quick help button. Both of those are at the top of the page. The next big portion of the screen is taken up with what is it that your phone is seeing, a display of it. Now, for those who have residual vision, that may be very useful and helpful because then you're able to see what the camera is seeing. If you don't have residual vision, just keep that in mind that that's taking up the largest amount of space on the screen. Okay. Now, in addition to that, on the bottom is where you will see the three buttons for the three main channels. Okay. But the things that are up on the very top, those two buttons, and then the three channel buttons at the bottom will always be there. Okay. Now, when you first open the app, it defaults on that first channel, which I said was the read channel. Okay. Now, superimposed near the bottom of that large picture that I said was on the screen are three new and different buttons above the three channel buttons. Okay. And those three buttons are arrayed left, center, and right. The button that's on the left in the bottom is the document detection button. And if you're using VoiceOver, it'll announce it as the document detection button. The button in the middle is a take picture or shutter button for your camera. And that allows you to take a picture using your phone's camera. The button that's on the right is the language recognition button. If you have residual vision and you're in the United States, then that button is going to default to having the letters EN displayed on that button for English. Now, please note that if you're using VoiceOver to work your way through those buttons that are superimposed on the screen, normally buttons are announced left to right, but in this case, the take picture button that's in the center is going to be mentioned first before the document detection button. All right, so I also want to go into a little bit of a discussion about what those buttons are because those are basically your access points to get into these different features of the app. First, let's talk about the document detection button. Now that button is a toggle switch. It turns this feature on and off, so it's toggle switch. The default position is off. And if you have residual vision, that button looks like a page of print with a diagonal line through it. And the diagonal line basically says it's off. If you toggle the switch on, that diagonal line will disappear. VoiceOver is going to announce it either way. Now, what does it do though? Well, when the button is in the off position, the app is simply looking through your camera's lens for any written information to read. It will automatically start reading aloud to you anything that the camera sees. So as you move the phone around and you point the back facing camera at anything with writing on it, the app will read whatever that writing is out loud. Now, that could be a handwritten note, that could be a sign, that could be, if you will, a piece of correspondence that you got in the mail. It could be anything that's got text on it. Now, when we reviewed this last year, that was called short text. And it's primarily because the use case for it is for it to be able to read short snippets of text or print that might be on display someplace to help you. You can use it to read signs in an airport, okay? You can use it for reading signs in a grocery store. Once again, you have to point the camera, the back camera on your phone at whatever that sign is. So there's a lot of different things that you can use it to point it at, and it will just read it. Now, the camera button is there to take a picture. If you take the picture, then it's going to make sure that it reads information from the picture. If you're just waving the phone around, it's going to read what it is seeing in the camera. So if you move your hand slowly, it has a better chance to read the information there. If you move your hand around really fast, you're only going to get snippets of things that it reads as it moves around. Okay? But its intention is to read short snippets of whatever print it is you want to point it at. I was using it around here in the office earlier, and I can read the signs on a closet. I can read the sign on a door. I can even read the sign for the fire extinguisher. However, the word fire was at the top, and then extinguisher was in a vertical line down below it. That kind of confused the app. It read fire without any trouble, but it didn't read extinguisher underneath of it because it got juxtaposed around in a different way. So there are limits to what it can do. Now, when that button is in the on position, when that document detection button is on, the app can then be converted into an OCR or optical character recognition document reader. Okay, the app will allow you to then position the phone's camera over a document and then reposition it as necessary so that the camera can see all four corners of the document. So the ideal situation is to start with the camera of the phone next to the document and then slowly lift up your camera, lift up the phone until such time as it tells you that it can see all four corners. It will tell you that it can't see one corner or another. So you just gradually keep raising your hand until you get to the point that it will announce that it can hear, and pardon me, that you can hear that it's saying that it can see all four corners. Then it's going to say hold steady. And at that point, it will automatically take the picture. You don't have to press a shutter button at all. Okay. Now, but once it senses all corners, then it will ask you to hold still and it will automatically take the picture. And then at that point, the OCR function will take over. Once it takes that photo, or when it takes that photo, you will hear the shutter sound, and the app will play a little jingle while it says that it's processing the photo. When that processing is complete, it'll begin to read the document in detail, and it won't skip a word or anything else. It's going to read it verbatim just like it's there. Now, if you're not using VoiceOver, then the document that will be displayed on your screen, it'll be in your preferred viewing mode. You can change it to reverse video. You can change the font size, things of that nature. But there's also a few other buttons that get displayed. In the bottom left corner, there's a play button, which you can press to have the phone read the document to you. Now, this is when you're not using VoiceOver. In the upper right corner is a button with an icon that looks like a page of writing with a plus sign, an addition plus sign in the lower right corner. If you press that button, you can then add another page to the scan. So your first page that you scanned is there, but if you have a multi-page document, all you need to do is to locate that button to add a page, flip the page over on the document, and repeat the same process so that you're scanning that new page. You can do that for as many pages as you want, and it will group all of them together in the right sequence based upon how you scanned it in. There's also another menu style button. It looks like a circle with an ellipsis inside of it. That's three dots. And VoiceOver describes that as a more button. And that offers you choices for page info, whether you want to rescan the current page, delete the current page, delete all the pages. So that can come in real handy if you've had issues with the quality of your scans, like you were moving around too much by accident, or if you accidentally shift your phone when the photo is being taken. So that button can help you from a quality control perspective to make sure that what you're scanning using this OCR function is readily and complete. Now there's also a back button in the upper left corner, And if you touch that button, it will take you back. The app warns you that when you do that, you're basically deleting anything that you've scanned so far, but it's basically a do-over button, or what I like to call a mulligan button. In addition to the play button that's in the bottom left, there's also a share button in the lower right corner where you can share the images or share the text or share the HTML link. And lastly, in the lower right corner is a button with a question mark inside of a circle. That button allows you to ask Seeing AI a question. So it's basically an interface for you to work with the artificial intelligence that is the Seeing AI app. Now, I wanted to describe all that way first if you have some residual vision and you're trying to scan around. For those of you who use VoiceOver, or you don't have enough residual vision to make it worth your while, then VoiceOver will continue to describe all of this to you. So you can use your single finger to explore around on the page and find any and all of those buttons. The default landing position post a scan is the back button that's in the upper left corner. However, you can drag and hunt your finger around on the screen or swipe right to move through all of the other buttons. And note that all of the normal VoiceOver reading gestures will work here. So once the scan is created, it's going to automatically start reading, but you can use the two-finger single tap to pause that. You can also swipe through if you need to, or use the read all button, whichever ones of those options you wish to do. Now, the other big button that was down there in the middle was the take picture button. And I mentioned that that's basically a shutter button for your camera. Okay, now that shutter button, and if you're using that, you're taking a picture that can be used for either the short text or the document mode. Either way, the app will take the photo of what you are looking at and what you're asking it to read. It can be helpful to do that, especially if you have a tendency to move around a lot, or you can't really hold your hand steady for it to be able to do a complete reading of a sign. Okay. Um, so it makes certain if it takes the picture, then it's got a still photo. And at that point, the artificial intelligence is reading what's on the photo and not what's coming through the camera. The button that I mentioned that's in the lower right corner with the language recognition, that allows you to choose between something like 20 different languages that are built into the app. Think about it this way, even though the default is English and you're primarily going to be in the US, then that's fine. But if you happen to be traveling abroad and you're trying to read the signs and wonder, what does that say? Where am I going? You can literally point your phone at a sign that's in another language and it will attempt to read that language and tell you what that means. Um, at the same point in time, you want to make certain that, I mean, the reality is that a lot of languages are built off the same alphabet, but then they might have different accents and things of that nature. So English, Spanish, and French use the same alphabet as an example, but there are different accents above different letters in each of French and Spanish. The same is true in any of the Germanic languages, like, if you will, German or any of the other Hungarian and European languages, if I may use that. The point being that you have the ability to select what language you want it to be reading in. Okay. Now it doesn't translate, it reads in the language that's there, but you have to tell it what language that it is. Okay. So that's all with the read channel. The describe channel, that that button, that channel is a window into the AI features that are really integral to the Seeing AI app. And there's some different buttons that appear on the screen for use with those features. So again, the take picture button is pretty prominent because you need to be able to take a picture for the AI to then interpret that picture for you. It allows you to take a picture, take a photo with your phone, which Seeing AI will then analyze and then describe to you. Now you got to remember that the camera that it's using is the camera that's on the back of the phone. So if you're trying to take a picture of something that's in front of you, you can't have the phone pointing down. You have to have the camera with the phone pointing away from you so that you're pointing directly at whatever scene or person or item it is that you want to have it to describe. Now, if you're pointing the camera at a person or a group of people, the app will describe to you if there are faces in the frame. And it will also include a general description of where they're located in the frame, like right center, lower left. Those are hints because if you're if you're trying to get that person centered on the screen, then you've got that hint to tell you how you might need to move your phone. You don't want to tell them to move, you want to move your phone. Now, once the picture's taken, the description that you get is very rich and very robust. I mean, it's a lot more than what you might expect it to come out from an artificial intelligence. Now, underneath of the photo, there's a row of buttons that will appear to allow you to interact with Seeing AI. Now, it's not that they appear to allow you, it's that they will appear. And those buttons, once they appear, allow you to interact with Seeing AI. So the first button on the left is Ask Seeing AI. If you tap that, it allows you to then either type or dictate a question to Seeing AI about the contents on the photo. The next button is Save Photo. That allows you to save that photo and put it into your photo library. Explore. That allows you to then use your finger to explore the contents of the photo. When you press that button, it causes the app to reanalyze it for each unique item that's in the photo to give that item a separate description. And to the extent possible, Seeing AI will then speak a unique description for each of those items. Now, Microsoft claims that that function is still, it isn't always accurate, and they want input and feedback about any changes. So they give you options later to, and I'll talk about it later, for being able to do that, but just know that it's not always accurate. Another button in that scenario is to share. That allows you to share the photo or the description with others. Okay, now another button that's down there is Recognize People. This button is to the left of the Take Picture button. If you have residual vision, it looks like an icon of the head and shoulders of a person with three horizontal lines next to it. Selecting that button allows you to use the Describe channel to recognize specific people. For that to work, though, you have to teach Seeing AI to recognize those people. And you do that by taking pictures of them and then going through the app, you put a name to that picture so that it will then recognize that person in the future. Once you press the Recognize People button, there's an Add button, that's a plus sign, in the upper right corner that allows you to add new people to the inventory of people that you want the app to recognize. And anyone that you do add to this feature will be listed by name with the photo that you've taken. As a part of adding someone to the list, they want you to confirm that you've gotten their permission to include them. So they're trying to be ethical about all of this. Now, to the right of that Take Picture button are two other buttons. One is above the other. This one, the one that's on the top, is the Browse Photos button, and that's used for you to access your photo library. If you haven't already granted access to your photo library yet, then you'll be prompted that you have to go into settings in order to grant access to your photo library. But if you do have access to your photo library already built in, then you will have the ability to pick and choose any of the photos that are in your photo library, and Seeing AI will describe that photo to you. And you can move around using the swipe gestures or with the drag and hunt function to point out a particular photo from your photo library for it to then give you a description. Again, underneath of whatever the photo is, there are buttons that are available for you to interact with the Seeing AI interface. And that includes Asking Seeing AI, where you can input a question. You can either dictate it or type it. The Share button, which allows you to share either the photo or the text description of the photo with someone else. A Reanalyze button, and that allows you to have Seeing AI take a second shot to analyze that same photo and give you a potentially different description. a delete button, which allows you to delete the photo from your iCloud account library, and then the explore button. And like before, the explore button allows you to use your fingertip to move around on the photo and explore different elements that are in the photo and have those elements described to you. Now, I said that that was the button on the top on the right-hand side. The button on the bottom of the right-hand side is a select or change camera button. That button allows you to switch whether you're using the back-facing camera or whether you're using the camera that is often called the selfie camera that's on the front. Okay. It allows you to switch back and forth between them. The default is the back camera because that's always the bigger or the better camera on the Apple iPhones. But it is the ability for you to move back and forth. It's a toggle switch. So if the default is the back camera and you activate it, then it's going to change to the selfie camera. If you activate the button again, it's going to change to the back camera. If you're using VoiceOver, all of this information will be described to you in a combination of the Seeing AI app, voicing and/or VoiceOver. Each button is clearly labeled and identified, and just like any other VoiceOver interface, you can explore the buttons by either swiping right or left or by dragging your finger around on the screen. Okay, the third channel on the bottom, that's the More channel. When Microsoft modified the Seeing AI user interface, they placed 7 different features into this one channel. I guess these are the ones that aren't used as much as the first two. But when you select this channel, a row of buttons will appear across the bottom of the app to allow you to select which feature you want to use. Once you tap the screen and place the focus on this row of the feature options, you can then move through those features using a short swipe up or down to move among the different channel buttons that are there. So each feature has its own button. And once you've tapped the screen or moved your finger down to the row of those buttons, then you can move back and forth across the button by using a single finger swipe up and down when you're using VoiceOver. Now, what are those buttons? The first one is product, and that feature allows you to use the camera to read a product UPC code, sometimes called a barcode, or a QR code. You will hear beeps that it will help you to audibly guide you into centering the product label into focus. You need to be careful not just about left and right centering, but also how far away the phone camera is from the item because it's got to be in focus. Okay. There's no new buttons appear on the screen. Okay. But as the image gets clearer and more in focus, the beeps get really fast. They start accelerating, and all of a sudden it'll take the picture. Okay. The image is then captured by the camera and it will end up giving you the description. It will automatically seek out the barcode or the QR code, but you might have to, for example, twist the can around side to side, or you might have to move the package around left to right in order to get to the point where you have the ability for the camera to see that product code. There's a person button. That feature allows you to use the camera to identify people. If the camera sees someone that you've already added, like I mentioned earlier, then it will tell you about that, and it will tell you that that person is in view. Otherwise, it'll tell you how many people are in view. So if you're in a crowded room and you're not really sure just exactly how many people are there, this will help tell you that. The feature uses 3 buttons on the bottom of the screen, including a take picture button in the middle, the recognize person button on the left, and the switch camera button on the right. Currency. This feature allows you to recognize currency, and I can vouch for it being a very accurate currency recognition tool. It's one button that appears in the lower right corner of the display screen that allows you to choose which currency you're trying to recognize. And the default currency is set in settings. You just simply hold the camera over the bill and it will recognize the denomination. And each time you're changing which bill is underneath the camera, it'll change what it says it reads. You don't have to re-invoke it each time. You just have to move the one bill out of the way and put the next one underneath of it. I like to point out to people that this is a really cool tool to use at home when you're in your privacy of your own home and you're comfortable flipping through the bills. And then you can take that recognition of the bills and fold them in a particular way so that when they're in your wallet, you know which denomination you're dealing with. Now we're going to talk about four more functions that are a little more, how do I want to say this? They're either in process of being built or beta form, whatever you want to call it. They're still things that are in process of continuing to improve. One of these is Find My Things. It's considered a preview function. It's still very much in development by Microsoft. But in short, if you teach it to recognize a certain thing, then it will end up looking for that certain thing. So for example, if you've got a specific key ring that you're always misplacing, this functions for you. You have to teach the app how to identify your things. So to do that, what it has you do to go through the process of is take several pictures of that item in different settings. So if we're talking about your key ring, it might have you take it on a countertop, it might have you take it on the bedspread, it might have you take a picture of it on the floor from different angles. That way it's got an idea of what that item looks like. Okay. But you have to train it to know that that's what that item is, and you put a name to it. And then if you're missing that item, you're selecting that item and you're saying, find my thing for me, find my key ring. Now, there are two buttons that appear on the screen with that feature. The button on the left is an add button, so you can add a new item or a thing. I believe that the button on the right allows you to select which of the items. So if you have more than one thing that you want it to be able to help you find, then you have the ability to pick and choose which one. So for example, I misplaced my wallet this time, not my keys. Then if you've trained it what your wallet looks like, you can select that you're looking for your wallet. Now, obviously for this to work, once you're selecting what it is you want it to help you find, you have to then use the phone and the camera that's built in on the back of it to scan around you in the room. So if you think for certain that your keys are somewhere there in the kitchen, but you're not sure where, then you stand in the middle of the kitchen and you move your phone around to be able to pan around the view, and it'll tell you whether or not it's there. The next channel is called the World channel, and that one's another one that they call a preview channel. And in short, you can scan the space around you using the camera that's facing away from you, and it'll identify anything that it sees and tell you that it's there. There's a filter button on the lower left that can be used to select whether the app will announce people or objects. There's a toggle switch for each one of those. And there's also a proximity sensor that is a toggle switch that if your phone is equipped with a LiDAR sensor, then it will provide varying tactile feedback to let you know how close an object is to you or how close a person is. There's also an action button in the lower right corner that allows you to obtain a spatial summary or to place a beacon or to look for any recognizable people. That one's still in development, but it is kind of cool, especially if you're in a space that you're not familiar with. Two more, color. This feature is intended to provide you with a color description of an item. And I say the word intended because I personally haven't found it to be all that accurate. I hear a lot of things described as gray or brown. Now, in fairness, the amount of light in the room at the time has a huge effect upon the accuracy of the color discrimination. But personally, I find that this is one feature that really needs a lot of additional work from Microsoft. And we're not just talking about the difference between navy blue and black. That's different for or difficult for just about anybody at any time. But I've had it pointed at a maple colored desk and have it say gray, not even brown, but gray. Okay, so it needs some work. The last feature is called light, and it provides an audible cue as to the amount of light that is within the given space. The more the app emits a tone, it sounds a bit like a synthesizer or an organ that varies depending upon the amount of light that's captured. The greater the amount of light, the higher the tone. When you point it at a window, for example, in a room, it will immediately change the tone to a much higher tone because it's getting the light coming in from that outdoor window. Okay, the menu function. We talked about the menu button in the top left corner on all the pages. The menu has a handful of key functions that you can explore and use to control your interaction with the app. One of those, the first one, is the Browse Photos button. It allows you to browse through the photos that are in your photo library. And when you use VoiceOver to swipe through the photos, you'll initially hear both a brief description and a brief and basic description of the photo. But once you've tapped or double tapped and selected that particular photo and it's analyzed, that's when you'll hear the full robust description. So if you have a lot of photos, you can use this normal navigational functions with swiping and or dragging and hunting to move through your photos. The help function is here in the menu. And as I mentioned before, it's a very robust help function. One way to access it is here. Now, when you're doing it through here, you're getting all of the help topics throughout the entire app. Whereas if you use the little button that's in the upper right corner on any one of the features or tools, then you're just getting the help function for that tool. Another item that's available through the menu is feedback. I mentioned earlier that they're constantly looking for feedback. Well, they're so serious about it that when you touch and activate the feedback button, it opens up a an email so that you can then and it already includes all the information about what model phone you're using, what level of software you're using, et cetera, so that it gives them all of that gory detail, and then you can just freeform type in what your issue is that you want to give them get their assistance with. The settings menu allows you to set the currency. You can configure Siri shortcuts, configure home screen shortcuts, reorder those channels so that the ones that you use more are closer to the left, making it easier to work with voiceover. You can also tell it whether or not you want the camera to adjust to the lighting conditions. And you can even change voice types. You can both change the type of voice. There's multiple voices to choose from, as well as changing the speaking rate. The Siri shortcuts, those are quite helpful. So for example, once you set up the Siri shortcut for recognizing currency, you don't have to open the app to be able to recognize currency. All you have to do is have your phone. You could even be on your home screen or on another app. And if you've got your phone open and you tell Siri, recognize currency, and your camera's pointing at a dollar bill, it's going to tell you what it sees. It's a dollar bill or it's a $5 bill or whatever. The home screen shortcuts are also very helpful. Those are things that will, any particular tools that you want to have over on your home screen can be displayed. There's a what's new component in the menu, and that's really nice. That it's a nice new addition that describes what's new and different with this most recent iteration of the phone. And then about, and that's a catch-all that includes the terms of use, the Seeing AI FAQs. It deals with the privacy policy, third-party notices, and the, if you will, the code of conduct for their AI. It's good bedside table reading if you ever want to fall asleep. All right. Lastly, from a summary standpoint, the interface got restructured so that instead of 10 different buttons at the bottom that you had to keep swiping back and forth through, they took the ones that were being used the most and they put those up front and center. And they shortened everything down to three main interface buttons or channels. Those are the read, describe, and more. The first two features, short text and document reader, were grouped together into the read channel. The description features like describing scenes or people and photos, those were all grouped into the describe channel. And then all of those other features, including products and currency and people and find my things and color and light, those were all grouped into the more channel. The app is a very solid and regular go-to app for anybody who has any kind of vision issues, whether they are completely blind or they have low vision. There are some features that are still under development, but the majority of the app is quite mature, and it is an exceptional tool to support your everyday activities. Wholeheartedly recommend that you use it and that you figure out ways that it can help you by exploring new and different things. Okay, that's the end of my prepared comments. I want to open it up for anybody to unmute themselves. I'll remind you that the way to do that, if you're on a phone, you can press *6. If you're on a PC, you can press Alt-A. If you're on a Mac, the Command Shift-A. And if you're on a smartphone or a tablet, the mic button is in the lower left corner. If you want to raise your hand in order to make sure if we've got a free-for-all here of people who want to say something, you can also raise your hand by using *9 on the phone. On the PC, it's Alt-Y. On a Mac, it's Option-Y. And on a smartphone or a tablet, you can look for the reactions button that's in the bottom middle of your display. So what sort of questions does everybody have? Don't be bashful. Okay, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, this is Judy. I had to my phone died, so I came back in. So that's why you may not see me anymore. Beautiful, well organized presentation. My question is, does the document orientation or whatever that was called, will it tell you if something is turned upside down, the print is upside down or right side up? Because occasionally I take things off a printer and it's like, oh, now which way is the bottom, which way is the top, so I know where to sign my name. Is there anything
Ah,
that you can use?
um, Judy, that's a really good question. I honestly have not tested that. I need to do that because I don't know what it would say if the document's upside down. But as an optical character recognition document, it should be able to recognize everything. But being able to specifically tell you which way you need to orient it to sign, that's a really good
Mm-hmm.
question. I don't
Okay.
know the answer off the top of my head.
Okay. All right. I thought I'd ask. Thank
That
you.
that's fine. It is something that I should probably try to make sure that I get some information on. So I'm going to write that one down, and I will do this. I can send out a recording of today's session to everyone who wishes to have one, and I will include the answer to that question.
Okay, perfect. And Kathy has my email address, so you're good. I should be in the
Great.
system.
Okay. All right. Wayne.
Pause recognition due to inactivity.
Yes, I'm interested in visualizations. I mean, I have other, like Be My Eyes and other apps, but with seeing AI and with AI, if I'm looking at my screen in quotes, and let's say I'm on Facebook, Facebook will tell me in very vague terms if there's an image there, what the image is. For example, if it's a church, it'll always be the Basilica of the Immaculate Conception, no matter where it is. But my question is, sometimes I get a picture, it might be a person, and I need to know, I might want to know, like, what is this person doing? How are they dressed? Can I get that kind of information off of a screen? Or if I'm on a website, it might be a product, and I want to get a better idea of it. Can seeing AI be more specific, and how do I do that?
Okay. So one of the things that is available whenever I think I mentioned that you have the ability to ask Seeing AI once it takes a picture and it gives you a description. So as an example, one of the first times that I used it, I was walking in my neighborhood and I was on the sidewalk. Okay. And I have it take a picture of as I'm looking down the sidewalk, and it gives me a robust description of the fact that there are trees on one side with cars on the other side of the trees, and on the other side, it's got different houses. And it mentioned that there was a bird on the sidewalk.
Hmm.
I asked the follow-up question of what kind of bird? Okay. And unfortunately, the bird was facing away from me, so it said it couldn't tell. Okay. Because there wasn't anything recognizable about the plumage, if you will, of the bird. Another time I used it and I knew that it was a robin, and I asked the same question. It was able to tell me that it was a robin. I have also used it, and sometimes I've used this when I've been working with people, clients, and showing them how to use this particular app. I'll have them practice being able to center someone in a photo by having them take a picture of me, and it'll give a description of me, what color shirt I'm wearing, and things of that nature. And I'll say, okay, as an example, ask it if I'm wearing a watch. Because if I didn't already say that I was wearing a watch, that's a good thing to ask it. Okay. And you can then ask that question and it will tell you whether or not if my arm with the watch on it is in view, it'll tell you whether or not the person's wearing a watch. So that sort of give and take is available. But I will have to tell you, Wayne, that there are some limitations. Um, you mentioned a particular church. I don't know that I don't believe that it will interface with some sort of photographic library to be able to identify one building versus another versus
Oh,
another.
yeah, that I kind of know.
Okay. So I think there are limitations, but within those limitations, it does have the ability for you to ask a bunch of different questions.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. Karen, I believe you were next. You can unmute
Yeah,
yourself.
I have a
There you go.
question. And a comment about what the gentleman was saying. Isn't there a feature like if you were somewhere else in your phone and like you saw an image or something, and then you could go to share, I think it is, and swipe to recognize with seeing AI? Is that still an option?
Well, there are a number of things that you can set up Siri shortcuts for. I mentioned the one about recognizing currency, that was an option that you had available. I'm going to do a quick check to see
Okay, it was not a.
of
I'm not talking about a Siri shortcut. I'm just saying on the share sheet,
um,
something that's
I'm
already there.
that's not something I am aware of, but
Okay.
I do know that the quote unquote recognize shortcuts that you can build with a Siri shortcuts.
Mm-hmm.
You can ask it. You can build the Siri shortcuts to read or describe, to recognize a product, recognize a person, recognize a currency, find my things, recognize the world, recognize color, light, or a new person. And you can also have it to browse your photos. Now, each
Mm-hmm.
of those is a unique phrase that when you use it, you can you're invoking Siri to do one of those things with the Seeing AI app.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure about going through share for you to be able to do that with a different photo. You can obviously share a photo, um, but if you've actually had Seeing AI to interpret a photo for you, okay, and to give you that description, you then have a button that is on the bottom of the photo as it's being displayed on your phone. There is a button there for sharing. And when you hit that button, you're either sharing the photo or you're sharing the description.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's what you're asking about, then that
Mm-mm.
function is there. But
Yeah, I'm not
I
talking about that. I'm talking about just because when you go to share, there's other things there too. Like you can share with Be My or recognize with Be My Eyes. So I used to use it a long time ago,
mhm,
and it would just kind of open up and try to, you know, describe the image. There's other things there that you can, but you know what's in the share sheet. You know what's
right,
there. Well, some of the
right.
things that you might find in the share sheet. So if you just keep swiping and swiping and swiping, you
It,
come across all kind of interesting things in there.
so if what you're asking is within the share options, is there an option of using Seeing AI
Yeah, I
as
think
a
there is
part of
because
the share? I
yeah.
believe that there is a function there, but
Okay.
I'll be honest with you, I have not played with it, so I don't really feel comfortable trying to answer your question other than I think it's there.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
never gonna I'm never gonna end up trying to wing it, if you will, by saying something that I don't know about, and I'm gonna tell you if I don't know, and this is one of
Okay.
those things.
Okay. So my question was, I've always seen that page, add a page, and I've never done it.
Hmm.
So when you find the document wherever you had it and open it up and it starts to read, will it read straight through all the pages or just stop or something?
Well, it will. So it's only going to see the first page and take a photo of the first page, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can either begin reading it then, or you can press that button that is the add a page.
No, no,
And
no. I mean, after you've done all that and your document is
oh,
somewhere else
okay.
in your phone and
All
you go
right.
to
So,
open it up to read it, will it just
right.
read
So,
straight through or will it pause after
yes, it
each
will read
page?
straight through. So
Oh,
once you
okay.
have the entire document scanned, it will read through the entire document in the sequence that you scanned it in.
Okay. That's pretty
So in other
cool.
words, if you did page 1, 2, 3, it's going to read page 1, 2, 3 in that sequence. If you scanned it by accident, you did page 1 and then page 3 and then went back to page 2, it's going to try to read it in that order, page 1, page 3, page 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to read it in the order that you scanned it.
Okay. That's pretty cool. I've never done that. I've never done. I want to try it. One time I had like this little small book. It was like a pamphlet or something. It was real
Mhm.
small. And
Okay.
I wanted somebody to scan it for me. And they scanned it somewhere else. I think it was maybe in the KNFB reader. That was a while ago. But I could have did it here. I could have did it in the CNAI.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna try it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. And Janine, I believe you have your hand raised.
Hello. Every 4 years, of course, like everybody else, I get a new credit card with a new expiration date and a new security code on the back. And I always have to go to a sighted person to read that. Is the CAI apps able to do that for me?
If it's printed on the card, then yes, it will read it to you. But something that I want you to be aware of,
Mm-hmm.
um, the scenario you just raised set off a little bit of an alarm bell in my head. So I'm going to be very cautious here.
Because it's financial
Um,
information. I know.
okay, so it's financial information, and whatever is reading aloud is reading aloud. So if you're not using headphones or earbuds or something like that, then anybody who's around you is going to hear whatever it reads.
I live alone, so I think I'm okay.
Well,
But
if you're at home when you're doing it, you're fine. But if you're out
right.
and about and you're
Oh
trying to
no.
answer that question, then anybody who's around you is going to hear it too,
Yeah, I wouldn't do it anywhere other than home, but it will read. And just say you get a brand new credit card and it's got a glossy sheen to it.
right?
And um, I haven't ever been able to find anything to read a credit card. And this will?
As far as I know, it will, because it's
Okay.
printed material. I have put business cards down in front of it. I have, like I said earlier, I walked around inside of our offices and pointed it at signs on the wall. I know that it can be used on street signs and things of that nature as well.
Well, I'm gonna have to try it. Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else have questions today?
Oh, this is Karen. I have another quick question. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Someone said that when you take the pictures, I don't know, for analytical purposes, I know sometimes companies save things, and I've scanned my entire life with the CNAI, so um, they got me. They can steal my identity or whatever if they want to. But somebody said that when you take, like, I may take a picture of I don't know, just say my birth certificate or whatever, and I might go to send it to myself, like in the email. But the picture that I took on the CNAI, somebody said that the pictures stay inside the app somewhere, and then somebody said they don't. So, what is your thoughts
So
about that?
part of what's involved in the app is that they have the frequently asked questions component that's available through the menu, and it's back in settings. Pardon me, it's in the um, about function, and in there, it will actually describe what it can do, but then um, it I believe I'm scanning through just to double check this because I thought I saw it there before, but I don't want to misspeak. I believe that
And somebody said once you delete it, suppose you're not sharing it with you're not sending it to your camera, but they said once you delete it, because I've taken pictures of many things and I've thought about it. And she mentioned the cards. I've taken pictures of all types of cards. And then I'll share it with myself. I'll normally share the text with myself
mhm,
in an
right.
email. And then I'll just delete it off of, the CNAI. But somebody was like, oh no, those pictures are still in there somewhere. And we're like, where? But
I'm trying to make certain that I am not misspeaking here. Their terms of use, and then they have, in addition to the terms of use, they've also got the whole bit about policies. And I don't want to waste everyone's time, but I believe that there is a certain amount of retention that they have where they keep
okay.
it for a period of time in order to make sure that they can appropriately interpret it first off, and then so that they have it in their records. But
Okay.
at the same point, document, no, that doesn't.
So you
I would
believe
have
that
to
they
look.
keep your images?
I think they may have to keep them for at least a short period of time.
Okay.
What I will do is make certain that when I do the send out of the recording, I'm also going to try to make certain that I answer your question as well as the one that was posed earlier about the orientation of the document for a signature.
Okay, because I've scanned all types of stuff. I'm like,
Right.
so they got
That's
me.
a,
I mean, I, you
I
know,
think it's a very fair question.
okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. Judy, I think you're the one who also has your hand up again.
Have you actually used that Find My Things? I'm just trying to figure out if it's like my book player. I occasionally lose my talking book player.
Uh-huh.
So I understand about the training. And then I guess the key would be just to make sure you're standing way back so it sees like the whole room at one time.
Well, it depends, okay? I hate to be um, too unspecific, but so you're training it to see what that item looks like, and
Mm-hmm.
I designed their directions say you need to make sure that the pictures that you take, and I think they want at least 4 pictures,
Mm-hmm.
are in different scenarios, like on the floor or on a table or on the bedspread or whatever. And I think that's in
Mm-hmm.
order to ensure that it's also against different colors of backgrounds so that
Mm-hmm.
it can
Okay.
try to make sure that it has the best chance of recognizing that particular item.
Mm-hmm.
Have
Interesting.
I personally used it? No, I have not. I have talked to at least one client about being able to use it because they have an item that they are routinely misplacing that they get very flustered when they do
Mm-hmm.
misplace it.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very nice tool, but I personally have not put in my own keys in my own wallet kind of thing to
Mm-hmm.
do that yet.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting because you did go through and say about the different backgrounds, but see, I was thinking about it from different perspectives because if you see it from the side, it's going to
Yes,
look different than when it's from the top. But they're
exactly.
more focused about the background. So I guess when you do the background, you'd have to make sure you also get the different perspective
Right.
of the
Well,
object as well.
one of the things that their documentation says, Judy, is that you 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 got to be realistic about what you're asking of it. So, for example, I think the documentation says you can't ask it to differentiate a blue pen from a black pen
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because they're both pens, okay, and they're
Right.
both going to be shaped very similarly, and they're going to be so nuanced as far as what they look like. But if you have a small wallet slash pocketbook that is, let's say, a purple leather pouch and you
Mm-hmm.
got one purple so that you might have a better chance of seeing it, but you don't know where you left the thing, then
Mm-hmm.
you could use this tool, the Find My Things, to help look around and
Mm-hmm.
search for that. And it's going to know that, okay, it's this color. And how does that color look against these different backgrounds? And
Okay.
what's the shape of the item? Is it a small rectangular pouch, or is it something that is different that might be a key ring that has a unique key fob on it? Those sorts of
Mm-hmm.
things. As with anything that's involving AI, there's going to be
Mm-hmm.
limitations of what it can and can't do. And I think that the AI is going to continue to improve, but it continues to be something that is being regularly trained, so to speak, to improve it and to refine it. So I think there may be limitations. And the best way that I can suggest that you do this is play with it and try it. Try something
Mm-hmm.
that you know that you might be misplacing on a regular basis, and then you, instead of misplacing the item, specifically place it somewhere, and
Mm-hmm.
then use your phone to explore the room where you know you set it down on the end of the bed, but you're going to use your phone to scan around the entire bedroom, and that way it can look at the floor when you point your phone down at the floor. It can look at the surface of your dresser. It can look at the countertop. It can look hanging on a hook next to the door, any of those sorts of things. And you can then determine the degree to which it is going to work for you.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Eric. What
Absolutely.
does it say when it finds the item? Does it say something or is it tone?
I believe it's tones, Karen. I'm not
Oh, okay.
certain of that, but I believe that it's going to do it based upon the tones, and that's going to directionally point you in the right direction.
Oh,
But
okay. The beep 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 might get like a little faster as you
that's
get
what
near the
my
item, maybe.
understanding is. And remember that you can have more than one item in the inventory of things. So you need to be certain that you have selected which item it is that you want it to search for.
Okay, that's cool. I'll often lose my water bottle, and I'm like, "Where's my water bottle?" I lose everything, but particularly my water bottle. And I'm like, "Where is it?" And I'm patting around trying to find it, and
Yep,
yeah,
I know that feeling.
like when I take
Uh,
it in the kitchen to refill it, somehow it just gets put somewhere else other than where it's supposed to be on the counter.
yep,
Yeah,
I get it.
I'm gonna try
And
that. Thank you.
the whole point behind this is to give people an opportunity to have a tool that can help them. But I will also say this. A couple of people have mentioned Be My Eyes. Okay. Today's presentation was about seeing AI. But there are tools like Ira and like Be My Eyes where you can call upon someone else's eyes to help you look for something. If it's Be My Eyes, it's a volunteer. If it's Ira, it's one of their paid staff members. But you can use them as your, if you will, your surrogate to look for something. If it's a particularly important item, then Find My Things might be outclassed by having a human being actually helping you to look for it.
And I tried to use Seeing AI the other day to read the settings on my toaster oven, and it just wasn't doing a good job. So I did call Be My Eyes for that.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the things about these tools is that they're great tools, but you have to recognize that they each have limitations. They each have a sweet spot of things that they can do for you. And sometimes it's better if you use an actual human being to try to help you find what it is you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I use Seeing AI every day though. I use it every day.
I think it's a great tool, and
It is.
that this user interface change caused some folks to have some concerns. So we thought it would be a good idea to have this review today to go over some of the changes.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you.
You're very welcome. I want to thank everyone for coming out today. I know some people have already jumped off the call. Thank you for your questions. And if you would like to have a copy of the recording, please let us know. And I do have at least two questions that I know I need to answer for people who have posed them. One about the ability to know if it's got the orientation proper so that you can know where to put your signature. And then also the issue about image retention and the degree to which Seeing AI or Microsoft keeps your photos and for how long.
Okay. Did we let you know we want the recording, or we have to let Kathy know?
Either one.
Okay. Well, this is Karen Rose. I would like the recording.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Okay.
And
All
of course,
right.
Judy Davis wants the answer to the question. So thank
Absolutely,
you.
Judy.
All right,
Absolutely.
perfect. Thank you so
Not a
much.
problem. Thank you, everybody. You take care. We appreciate you coming out for today's episode. Have a good one.
All right. Thank you.